All right, so this is my basic ingredients to make the lentil pea stew that I'm gonna make. All right, so I like to get the Roma tomatoes. You know, they have a different flavor and they're just easier to deal with to me. I use potatoes. This is organic, it doesn't matter. It could be any form of potato. I use either the red ones or whatever potatoes you choose to use. I use this or the red one. This is the butter I use. Any butter works. I make sure I put thyme. Thyme makes a big difference in the food. It brings all of the flavors together. I use onion, like red onion. I know she's not an onion fan as far as eating onions, but I cook with onions and she doesn't see the onions in the food because I guess it gets boiled out, or I just don't share the food with onions to her. But yeah, there you go. And today I'm gonna add corn. If you have corn, you can put corn in there as well. It'll absorb the flavor with the stew. And I also use pumpkin to thicken the stew. I don't think you're gonna find pumpkin out there. And if you do, if you find this type of pumpkin, it's good for thickening the stew. It sweetens the stew in a way too. But it's not necessary. I'm just gonna show you the basics that you need to make the lentil stew, and it's gonna taste good. The first ingredient actually is garlic and the beans. All right, so I'm cutting the top part of the garlic, as you can see. So we're crushing the garlic. It's crushed. You know, that's to bring out the flavor a little bit differently. I'll crush it right here. It's crushed. What I'm gonna do now is get the beans together. So now what I'm gonna do is just, use my mind and see how much beans I want. I think that should be enough. I'll put a little bit more. The more beans, the thicker the stew. And what I'm gonna do is use those crushed garlics, put them in there. Use as much as possible, as much as you want. I'm gonna actually grab some water. And you're just gonna put enough to know how much liquid stew that you want. So you're not gonna put too much because it's gonna have to reduce down. And you want the stew to be like reduced down so that it gets a little thicker. The more reduced down, the more thicker it is. If you want it like this, it would actually be just more of a soup instead. So right now we're gonna leave it like that. You're gonna leave it on the stove, leave it to boil. Gotta clean the tomatoes, some of them are a little dirty. Clean them. And at the same time while I clean them, I peel them. I cut it with my hands, but you could cut it on a cutting board. I'm just doing it the way I see my father do it. And I'm telling you, this is about after 5 minutes of the beans being in the pot. It started to boil. Like lentil beans are like the quickest beans to boil. And I boil so much beans, but lentils is like the quickest. So now that I have that right there, the next ingredient that I would put in there is onions. I like red onions. I love red onions. I don't know. I just think red onions is a different flavor, but you could use any onion. And I slice the onion. And like I said, you could do this on a cutting board, but I just have the skill of doing it in my hands. And I'm slicing the onions very thin because I like onions thin. I don't like it too chunky. And let that bubble up and boil up for a bit. All right, so I'm actually cutting the corn, preparing it to put it in the pot. All right, so now this is like about 7 minutes later or 8 minutes later. All right, so what am I gonna do is I'm gonna take some butter. You gotta butter the pot so it doesn't stick to the bottom. I'm gonna use this amount of butter right here. I just put it in the stew. You know, that way things don't stick together. You could put more if you like, or whatever. You know, and what I do, since the corn takes a while to cook, I'll put my corn in there. My next vegetable that I will put there is the potatoes. I'm gonna wash off one of the potatoes, wash it off. And at the same time while I'm washing it off, I'm gonna peel it. These are organic potatoes, like I said, you can use any one. And then I just come right back to the pot and I cut the potato in half. You know, cut them in like 3s or whatever, 4s. And I just chop them. Little nice chunks. Nice chunks. You know, not too big, not too small. Just right in between, bite size. All right, so this is some pumpkin. You don't have to put pumpkin in there, but I put it in there and it mashes out in the gravy. You won't be able to tell if there's even pumpkin in there. And I'll add pumpkin to it for a thickener. So right now I got pumpkin and I got potato in there. You don't need to put pumpkin in there. You could just put potatoes alone, like you got potato right there. You don't need to put pumpkin. Just repeating that. It's boiling up. Allow that to steam down right here. And let it bubble up. All right, being that you see that the water is reducing down is a good sign. But being that I just added so much food back to the pot, like the corn, the pumpkin, and the potato, we want to always make sure there's enough room. And I don't want nothing sticking to the bottom of the pot or anything. So I will add a little bit more water. Not so much, not like a cup, just probably like a quarter or a half a cup of water. And allow that to reduce down. So I'm going to stir up everything right now, you know. And just to be on the safe side, that way it's nothing stick, I'll take a little bit more butter. So that'll probably be like a half a stick of butter per pot. And I'll put that in there, let that marinate in there, everything stir up together, you know. As you can see, look, the tomatoes kind of disappear, the onions is a little bit disappearing. Another ingredient that I did not add was salt. This amount, like say, I would say a tablespoon or a little less than a tablespoon to salt the pot. And you just want to give it a quick stir, and that's all. You don't need no more to salt this pot. And give it a small taste. Perfect. No more salt than that. All right, so this is a trick that my father taught me that I like to do in order to thicken the gravy. I like to get a piece of the potatoes and put it against the spoon and against the pot and crush it. It's like thick, it's like you crushing mashed potatoes in the pot, kind of. So when it's reducing now, the water, it will start to reduce and it'll get thicker. I even crushed the pumpkin too for flavor into the, you know, the pumpkin or even the potatoes. You just put it as flavor. You crush it, it will flavor the pot, you know, and it will thicken the stew. Another trick for getting it thicker is after I put all the ingredients in there, I like to just put it on like a low medium fire. That way it just slowly reduces and it slowly bubbles. Whereas it being on high, it just bubbles up too much. All right, thyme is a must in all of my food. I like fresh thyme. I do not like powdered thyme. It makes the food taste total different. So when the thyme is fresh like this, I love it. So I buy it from the grocery store. I'll make sure it's fresh. And like Jamaicans more likely like to open their thyme and let it dry out like this. So that's what I'll be doing with this one. So this is fresh right now. I'm gonna use this right here. You could use the whole stem. It gives it a nice flavor too. Or if you don't want the stem in the food, I tend to just break down the leaves off of the stem. And I give it a nice little stir. That way everything It's getting there, and as you can see, it's slowly reducing. I can see it getting thicker, the food. So, you know, like when you want it to get thicker is the lower the fire is on, and don't put the pot cover on if you do want it to be thicker. Just put the pot cover halfway on, or just not on at all. So you want to have it on the lowest fire possible if you want to get thicker, because right now it's about to be finished. And to be honest, it's only been on the stove for like 30 minutes. Yeah, so I got tofu right here, extra firm tofu. And what I do with the tofu is I wash it off first. What I do is I like to slice my tofu. It doesn't matter how, but I'm gonna slice it like this, long ways. Or I could actually just slice down the middle and make cubes. Doesn't matter. If you don't have this, you could use soy sauce, you know, low sodium if you want, or any form of soy sauce if you don't have this. Add my amino acid brags, where it's, you know, what I do is, you know, tofu is like a sponge. It marinates and it soaks up everything or anything you put it near or with. So right now I have this, and I'm just trying to marinate one side and then marinate the other. So one side I'll marinate for like a minute or two, and then I'll flip it and let it marinate just like this for another minute or two. And I'll have a pan with oil in there, you know, where I could fry one side to like a crispy, rough texture. And then the other side, I'll flip it, fry it to the crispy, rough texture. And what I do after that, while the stew is simmering and reducing and getting thicker, I will add the tofu after being crispy fried to the stew. And the thyme in there, I mean, the thyme is in there already. I'll add the tofu to the stew, and it's just gonna absorb, like, it's gonna have like a fried, smoky, not burnt, but crisp flavor to the stew. And, you know, I'll make some greens on the side, maybe some spinach or kale, you know, season up the kale for her, like with like onions, tomatoes, stir fry it, and then steam it down. That's all I'll do for her. And she loves it. All right, so this has been marinating for a little bit longer than 5 minutes. I wanted it to be 5 minutes, but it hasn't. 7 minutes to go. I let the stove is on like less than high. And like I said, I just want them to be golden brown on each side. Not burnt, but golden brown. You know, I never enjoy tofu when it's white, just like this. I have to be brown colored. That's why I marinate it. Put every little piece that can fit in the pot. Roomful. Look, right here we have the tofus. Nice and crispy on both sides. Nice and crispy on both sides. You can let them dry out, let the oil dry out. I don't have that much time, so I'm gonna put them directly in the pot. As you can see, I'm gonna give the pot a little stir. And you can see that the thickness of the stew is there. It's thicker, it's not liquid. It's not too much like soupy, it's thicker, it's like stewy. There we go. Now this is gonna slowly marinate with the tofu, the potatoes, the corn, everything is absorbing that flavor. One thing I noted about Malaya, she's like me in this sense. She likes her stew mixed with the rice. So that's how I would share it for her. You see how thick the stew is? It's like, it's not too liquidy. It's just like thick. It's liquid, but it's more thicker. You see, it's like a thick gravy. And that will be for my food. And then I'm gonna add me potato, the tofu, everything is all in one there. I'm hungry, so I am making a big plate. There we go. And I'm gonna cover that pot right there. And I got my greens right here and the other pot that's well steamed down. And that's my dinner tonight.